Hello everyone, my name is Anitsu and I'm back with another Digimon video. So today we got some new cards from the 3 new starter decks shown, and they are definitely looking to be pretty interesting and pretty decent considering their option cards. So the first card that we have today is Chiku Chiku Bang Bang, which is a really powerful card considering it's a starter deck card. But I guess that's not surprising considering we got like Terra Force from a starter deck, so it's just par for the course to have some decent option cards in starter decks, I guess. But that's not necessarily a problem, it's just a very interesting thing to take note of. So what the card is actually doing is it is a 2-cost option card with the main ability of choosing one of your opponent's Digimon and resting it or suspending it, which that's pretty good. We've seen it before in the form of Flower Cannon. In fact, this card costs the same exact thing as a Flower Cannon, except what's different about this is that it's not a Flower Cannon, because the security effect is different. So Flower Cannon's security effect is resting all of the opponent's Digimon without blocker, where this security effect is you trigger its main effect, so you only get to rest one of the opponent's Digimon down, and then after that, you add this card back to your hand. So this is really, really good, and I think this is a little bit better than Flower Cannon, where Flower Cannon is probably a little bit better defensively. This is a lot better more offensively, because if it winds up in your security, then you get it back into your hand, and then a huge part of Green's identity in terms of being able to handle the problems that the opponent is going to be presenting them with is the fact that they need to rest the opponent's Digimon down and attack into it. And then there's a whole bunch of benefits for having Digimon be rested. So, like, having this card add itself back to the hand on top of still resting one of the opponent's Digimon as a security ability is just a very, very powerful ability. And I think depending on the deck, this could probably just replace Flower Cannon outright. I mean, Flower Cannon, again, is a little bit better defensively because it rests the whole board, but I definitely like the more consistent fact that you'll always have this card to play from your hand, whether it's actually in your hand or in the security, versus Flower Cannon, where that might not necessarily be the case. So I am definitely really, really liking this card, and I think this card is really good. Next up, we have Laser Eye. So Laser Eye is a 4-cost black option card with the main effect of choosing up to 2 of the opponent's Digimon and de-digivolve it 1, and then its security effect is triggering its main effect. So I'm not necessarily a huge fan of the de-digivolve mechanic. I think it has merit, and I think it's really interesting. It's just what it's doing in black isn't necessarily super great, considering black doesn't really have any forms of removal outside of shrinking the Digimon and then just having blockers up. But given the context of this is going to be in the black blocker starter deck, or at least the starter deck is looking to be like a black blocker starter deck, I think this card is pretty okay for that, but in the grand scheme of things in the game, I just don't think this card is going to see a whole lot of play. But I could very easily be wrong about that. And then lastly, we got Deathclaw, which is a 1-cost purple option, and its main ability is destroy one of your Digimon and then destroy one of the opponent's level 4 or below Digimon. Just that first part of the ability, I think, is really, really good. So there's a lot of on-death synergy or like on-deletion synergy that Purple wants to be playing with, and usually the cards that we currently have that allow you to self-sacrifice a lot of your Digimon, they're really, really expensive to play in the forms of Chimeramon, which costs 7 to play, but the removal effect is stronger. And then there's Heat Viper, which costs 5 to play, and then that can destroy 2 of the opponents. So I definitely think for the cost and for the effect, this card is really, really powerful. And then on top of that, its security effect is just destroying one of the opponent's level 4 or below Digimon, which I also think is very, very good, considering it's just the same thing as its main effect, just without you needing to sacrifice a Digimon. So whether it's in the early game or some of the more mid stages of the game where the opponent is trying to build a good board state and they're not necessarily digivolving all the way up past their champion levels, this card is just a very, very good card. And the fact that it costs so little is also why I think this card is very, very good. And definitely we'll see some play, especially in the Lilithmon purple options deck that's slowly emerging. Because right now I don't necessarily think that deck is very good, just because it doesn't have a lot of good options to really utilize Lilithmon's ability with, and you still need to play Digimon to get up into Lilithmon. So now that they're finally getting a whole bunch of more good option cards to think about and play around with, I definitely think that deck is slowly going to start to become a very, very powerful deck. And this is just a very, very powerful option to think about for that type of deck. And not even just for that type of deck, but for purple in general, because it's just a good card. So I definitely think these cards are all really, really good in their own ways. What I seem to notice is that these 3 new starter decks are definitely looking to be more powerful in terms of their overall design than the original 3 starter decks. I guess that's just par for the course and the nature of how games evolve, because these are meant to compete with more of what we currently have rather than just be a more baseline foundation for the color, and we kind of already got the baseline foundation for the color in the booster sets that these colors were initially released in. So I guess it only makes sense that way that these starter deck cards are going to feel a little bit more powerful and their designs are going to be a little bit more powerful as a result. So that's kind of all I really have for this video. As always, feel free to tell me your thoughts down in the comments below. And don't forget to like, share, and subscribe for more content. And I will see you in the next video.